I've consulted one-on-one with at least 100 entrepreneurs across literally every single part of the business lifecycle. Entrepreneurs starting out, entrepreneurs that are scaling, and entrepreneurs that have already scaled and are exiting their businesses. And I see time and time again that entrepreneurs are getting exhausted, they're getting overwhelmed, they're getting burnt out, and they're not actually getting as much done as they want to. They're either working too little or they're working too much, but ultimately their revenue isn't going anywhere. And so what I'm going to show you are the series of systems that I personally use, that my business partners use, that every single one of the clients that I have personally worked with one-on-one use to get as much done as possible in the time frame of a day. We call this system of systems a 1 month day. So if you want to get more done in 1 day than most entrepreneurs get done in a month, and if you want to get more done in 12 days than most entrepreneurs get done in a year, watch the rest of this video in full. The first thing that we need to discuss in order to install the 1 month day into your work cycle is what work actually is. Now, work, according to the misconception of many people, as defined by science, is force times distance. That isn't really a practical definition that we can use. The way that we define work at our company is volume times leverage. Volume times leverage basically means how much you do. So the volume here is how much, and the leverage part is how much you get out for what you do. A much easier way to actually see this is just input ratio output, right? Now here, the most important thing is what you're getting out. If you're working 16 hours a day, but your revenue isn't moving, in entrepreneurship, output is very clear. It's your main KPI, right? Which for most people is profit or revenue. Okay, if your profit or your revenue is stagnant, then you are definitionally not working. And by this definition, Elon Musk is the hardest working person in the world today because he gets the most amount out. Okay, so it's about how much you're getting out for how much you're putting in. Doesn't matter if you're working 10 plus hours a day. The problem with most entrepreneurs, and the reason why they're not getting a lot out for what they put in, is because most entrepreneurs do not focus on what we called RGTs or hits. Okay, RGTs are revenue generating tasks, okay? And hits are high impact, meaning high leverage tasks. Most of the hours of the days of an entrepreneur that is stagnated with their revenue is usually spent on stuff like meetings. It's spent on stuff like putting out fires in the business or just refining things with perfectionism that don't actually need to be refined, like landing pages, like websites, etc., etc. What they're not doing in this case is actually working on the constraint of the business. If you want to answer to yourself what the constraint of your business is, just ask yourself what's stopping you from actually 10xing the business right now. Most of the times you don't need to buy some guru's course. You don't need to learn about a new tactic or a strategy or switch your client acquisition system. It's very clear what the constraint of the business is. A lot of times it's you just not advertising enough, or it's your customers not sticking, so it's an LTV problem. So people keep churning out, people keep leaving. And these are the only two main things that we usually see. There's others, but usually these are the two constraints of the business. Either it's advertising, which is marketing, or delivery, which is again related to the LTV of your customers, which is how much they pay you throughout their lifetime. And so here I want to discuss a quote by Warren Buffett. So Warren Buffett actually had a colleague. This colleague, according to Warren himself, was basically as smart as him. He was getting similar grades to him, and they were very similar in a lot of regards. Very similar background, very similar everything. However, the difference between the two is that he went into the steel industry, which at the time was booming, and Warren went into investing. Years later, they met together, and Warren Buffett realized that despite them being of almost equal intelligence, this dude was not making a fraction of the money Warren Buffett was making, which is the main reason why Warren Buffett said, sometimes it's not about how hard you row, it's about what boat you're in. But the thing is, most entrepreneurs have picked the right boat. Business is the right boat. Entrepreneurship is the right boat. So the principle that we can take away from this story is that it doesn't matter how much you work in terms of hours. And we'll get to when it does, but how much you work is overshadowed. It's less important than what you work on, okay? So if you are picking the right tasks, picking the right boats that actually generate you revenue, you can get more done in 4 hours than you usually get done in 16. The second thing that is absolutely important for you to install the system of the 1 month day, which we'll get to in the third point, is actually elimination. Elimination is one of the most important tools that an entrepreneur has. So this is what you should absolutely do before you install the 1 month day system. Number one, only work on hits. Okay, only work on revenue generating tasks, absolutely nothing else. A lot of entrepreneurs say, oh, my most important tasks are at the top of my to-do list. Non-important tasks should not even be on your to-do list. You should only be doing high impact, high revenue generating tasks. If you're not doing that, then that's probably the reason why you're not scaling. The second thing that you need to do is you need to understand how elimination takes place on both the macro and the micro. So the difference between macro and micro focus is the fact that macro is day to day, week to week, and macro essentially includes stuff like offers, business models. It includes your core service, like how much it switches, like if you're actually focused when it comes to the core service of your business. And the micro is hour to hour. So this is whether or not you're scrolling on Instagram, how much you actually get out minute to minute, hour to hour for the time that you work. The solution to being focused with both of these is elimination. With the macro, if you're having new offers, eliminate the new offers. New business models, get rid of them, right? If you're having new client acquisition systems, right, that are actually not generating you much revenue, remove all the ones except for the ones that are actually generating you revenue. And I'll tell you, a lot of the times it's just one system that mainly generates an entrepreneur revenue. So why are you doing multiple things when you haven't even maximized this one thing? So make sure there's no plurality in the core services that you're offering. You make sure that you stick to the plan, you stick to the core offering of your business. Your service doesn't keep changing. You don't have to retrain your employees, retrain your teams, or retrain yourself because you're the one doing the fulfillment. The second thing is, in terms of hour to hour, you also need to eliminate stuff. So this includes people that are on your team, like your business partner or whoever else it is, who keep messaging you on Slack or whatever they used to message you. You want to eliminate Slack. If people keep asking you for a few seconds of your time and it takes you off the track, off your course to actually solving the main problem in your business, which is, as we spoke about before, the constraint of the business, the actual thing that's going to get you revenue, then you get rid of them. It doesn't matter who they are. If most of your time is spent on YouTube, if you're watching this video right now and you haven't worked at least 4 to 5 hours on the constraint of the business, block YouTube using one of the extensions that allow you to block YouTube. This includes ClearSpace, that's the one I personally use. You can turn on feed blocking or so on and so forth. But again, you just want to eliminate, right? If it's your phone, just get rid of your phone. Put it in a different room while you work. It doesn't matter what it is, you want to get rid of it if it's stopping you from working on the constraint of the business. And a life hack to actually do this is waking up early, okay? So a lot of times, the problem, at least with me, is that I essentially have a team that keeps messaging me all the time, right? My business partner is very eager to communicate with me. And because of that, even when I'm co-working with him in the same room as him, I find this issue where, again, we just keep distracting each other and I'm not able to work on the constraint of the business. And so we don't make any money unless I separate myself from him. But one thing that I started doing is I essentially wake up early, right? If you wake up earlier than your team, let's say that your team's waking up at 9 a.m., you start waking up at 4 a.m., right? That also means that you go to sleep earlier. So no more of those doom scrolling sessions, no more distractions at night, no more clubbing, none of that bullshit. You go to sleep on the right time. You wake up at 4 a.m. You have how many hours between 4 a.m. and when your team actually even has an opportunity to disturb you? You have a whole 5 hours, okay? 5 hours to actually work on the constraint of the business. I'm telling you, you actually use those hours properly, you are going to scale. And speaking of hours, here is the actual structure of the 1 month day. I know we went over a lot of stuff, but the reason why is because there are more important precursors to the 1 month day than the actual systems within the 1 month day. If you don't actually understand what work is, or don't eliminate everything except for the work that you do, you're never going to be able to succeed with the 1 month day. Now, the 1 month day, according to our company, is a 10-hour or a 10-cab day. We'll discuss cabs later, but it's essentially a form of accountability that we use so that entrepreneurs are performing at their highest level every single hour that they work. But it's essentially 10 hours that an entrepreneur works every single day. Now, you might be asking, how does this tie into what I said before when it comes to what you get out for what you put in? So here's the thing. Until you have leverage, which is, again, this is the formula for work: volume times leverage. Until you have enough leverage, and these are basically the forms of leverage. You have either content, which is you record it once and then other people basically can watch that content. A bunch of people can watch that content. You have code, which is basically software automations. These are the two main ones. Collaboration, which is basically you getting other people to do the work for you, and capital, when you have money. Okay, so this one is the main one. When you have other people that can do stuff for you, then you can talk about decreasing volume. However, when you are starting off in business, you have to work double time. I was talking to a new entrepreneur recently who had recently just gotten into business, and he was telling me that he was planning on getting other people to do work for him, right? Anyways, the details don't really matter. I had to tell him that at the beginning, you have to work double time. And that is why, what did I say? It takes 5 hours. You need to work at least 5 hours per day on the constraint of the business. This, ladies and gentlemen, is double that, okay? This is what double time really is. And I promise you, if you actually devote 10 hours a day to the constraint of your business, that is when you will get more done in a day than most people get done in a month. Because guess what? Most people don't even give a shit about the constraint of their business. They don't care. They don't even look at it. They don't even really know what it is. They're a slave to their team. They just love being pushed around by people. They love people booking meetings because then they can tell their family, they can tell their spouse, they can tell their kids, or at least show their kids that they're always busy, but their revenue, the actual dollar amount that they're making, doesn't go up. Guess why? Because they're not actually working on the constraint of the business. And that's the essential principle of the 1 month day. How do you actually make sure you're working on the constraint of the business? It is by using accountability. Okay, and this is not just me saying this. It's all the biggest names in the industry. Alex Hormozi, Sam Ovens, Iman Gadzhi, Charlie Morgan, Naval Ravikant, people across literally every single niche that you can imagine, every single paradigm, people that do business understand how important accountability is. And I want you to listen to some of them.
To your point, even of alternative education in general, when you say, hey, you could learn this stuff on YouTube, et cetera, et cetera. The issue that we're solving for is not that it's not a knowledge gap. The issue is an accountability gap. Is that people don't do stuff.
We know what to do, but we can't do it because we don't have anyone observing us and anyone holding us accountable.
When you have someone looking at your stats, when you have accountability calls, it's like there's no running anywhere, you know what I mean?
Accountability is important because that's how you're going to get leverage. That's how you're going to get credibility. It's also how you're going to get equity. And if you have high accountability, that makes you less replaceable.
Now, the thing is, the type of accountability that you want to have is live accountability. If you have accountability on a weekly basis or a quarterly basis, or you speak to a mentor or something like that, that is not enough. Again, we're talking about a problem that boils down to hours. What you need is live accountability, and we have created a very particular system. We're giving it for free for 6 weeks. If you're interested in our free 6-week focus challenge where we give you one-on-one professional live accountability, click on the link in the description. But if you don't have live accountability, you're gonna go off track. And one of the most favorite perspectives that I have seen on this is actually by a dude called Dan Henry. He said that it is always easier for him to make a marketing campaign for his clients than it is for himself. And the reason why is because sometimes you're too close to your business. You're too close to your work to realize you're not working on the constraint of the business. You're too close to realize, hey, I should just be doing more of this and none of this. It's a lot of times simple mathematics, right? But because you're so close to something, you can't see it. You can't see the bigger picture. So sometimes you need somebody. This is what Dan Henry says.
You never take your own advice. I've struggled with that too. It's so much easier for me to come up with a marketing campaign for a client than it is for me. It's 10 times harder. When you're so close to something, you're too close to see where you're going wrong. You have to have somebody that stands back, even if they're not as good as you. When they stand back and they look at the whole picture, they can see what's going on. They can see what's wrong.
So again, accountability does not necessarily need to be from a guru. It doesn't need to be from somebody who knows more than you, who can tell you all the little tactics and the strategies. Accountability is just something that can work based on principles. And what you want to do is you want these hours to be as close to one another as possible. Okay, so that means minimal breaks. Okay, and when you have accountability, you can actually do this type of work minimal. I can't spell and talk at the same time. Minimal breaks is what you need to have. When you have accountability, you can work for 8, 9, 10 hours without getting burnt out, as per se, without getting overwhelmed. You actually get the work done. And again, if you have literally nothing else to do, elimination occurs. And if you understand what work actually is, that's when you actually skyrocket how much you can work. And then you get something one of the most beautiful forces in business, which is momentum. You get momentum for every single minute, every single hour that you work. It snowballs into the next. But a lot of times, it's the fact that an entrepreneur is working on one project. Let's say you're getting your ads set up because your business is gonna die if you don't have customers. And so you're working 1 hour, but then you have to stop because obviously you're an entrepreneur. You have to take breaks. You know, you're a freedom dude. You love your freedom. So you take that little break and then you come back. Now you're gonna work another hour. This little break, right, whether it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever the hell it is, as a break in between these 2 hours is all you need to switch. You go from, oh yeah, I was setting up ads, but you know, because I'm an entrepreneur, I'm attracted to shiny objects. This is what you have as a condition, shiny object syndrome. You keep switching your funnels, your offers. You're like, oh, why am I doing Facebook ads? Can I just, let me look into Pinterest ads. Let me do some research about this and that and that and this. That is what you don't want to happen. And the way that you do that is by leveraging momentum. You use the momentum of every single hour to work on the constraint of the business, to keep working on the same constraint. The man who chases 2 rabbits ends up catching neither. So again, the principle here is unity, oneness, right? Make sure that you are focused. Focus, by definition, is the quality and the quantity of the no's, okay? It's not about saying yes. As Steve Jobs says, it's about saying no, okay? How much you say no and how big the no is. And sometimes you'll have to leave money on the table. Sometimes you'll see a shiny object, AI agency or whatever, like some dude saying, hey, we should partner on this, or some dude saying, hey, let me do your LinkedIn for you, or let me do your Instagram for you. No, it's the quality of the no's and the quantity of the no's. The more no's you can say, the more focused you are, the more you can actually work on the constraint of your business. Ladies and gentlemen, if you like the content, like the content. If you didn't like the content, don't like the content. We have a bunch of other content that you might also like if you like this content. I think I said content like 4 times. But again, check out the rest of the content in the channel. Subscribe, like, all that good stuff. I'll catch you guys in the next one.